I'm Larry Hood. I manage the purchasing division, and we buy pretty much everything in terms of supplies, equipment, and services, except for what Brant presented to you and except for what you just heard about from Anika. So everything except for architectural engineering services and construction and the grant-funded home improvement programs. We buy everything else. What that amounts to is a wide range of goods and services. There's supplies, equipment, and services. Supplies can be anything from car parts to salt for the roads. The equipment can be anything from just a weed eater or something all the way up to a very expensive vacuum truck that cleans out the sewer lines, $500,000 unit. It can be anything from on the service side, from professional services to mowing the grass, including the stuff that Kevin talked about. Basically, in the fiscal year 2018, which is the first full fiscal year that we've completed, the most recent one, we had 3,000 requisitions from all the city departments in total of excess of $60 million. The flip side of that is those 3,000 recs on average, 80% of them were less than $25,000. And our process for things that are less than $25,000 is an informal quote process. It's not we don't make you jump through quite as many hoops as some of our formal processes. And so it's good to pay attention to what kind of requests that we've put out there. If it's an RFQ process, it's just typically emailed to the list of vendors in the system, and the document itself has everything you should need to know in order to turn your price in for it. Purchasing administers also about 400 contracts where we spend on each individual item or group of items over $100,000 per year. And those 400 contracts, frankly, are the bulk of the dollars that we spend on an annual basis. Those are done on a formal competitive process. Anyone can submit a bid or quote or proposal to purchasing. They're evaluated based on the terms and conditions in the particular solicitation document. So I can't emphasize too much how important it is to read everything in that request, whether it's an informal 2-page RFQ or a 50-page request for proposal. You need to read everything. If you don't understand something, send questions on that to the buyer in writing so we can respond to it. We have a system, an automated system, that sends out email notice based on NIGP commodity codes. NIGP is the National Institute of Governmental Purchasing, and these are like category codes for the different supplies, equipment, and services that we buy. And in order to keep from bombarding you with requests for things you don't sell, we allow people to register by commodity code, and then the system emails everybody who's signed up typically for particular commodity code when we're buying that. So if you do mowing, we're not going to send you something for, janitorial. This website, by the way, this is the best way to get plugged into the purchasing process. Is go to cityofTulsa.org, and you can go to Selling to the City, and there are links there to how to register and various other things. This is registration as a vendor. The form that you need and the instructions on what to do with it are right there on that website at that link. As I mentioned before, formal solicitations, they're things that are $25,000 or more, are posted on our website. They're advertised in the newspaper. We also notify anybody we can identify who we think might be qualified to do the work. So we do our best to include everybody who might want to bid on something. Those documents are all available at that link right there, Current Bid Opportunities, and you should be able to download that document and have everything that you need to respond to our bid request. If you have any questions, I can't emphasize this enough, send your questions in writing to the buyer, because they're the ones who are responsible for collecting questions from everyone and getting the answers back out to everybody. All the instructions that you should need should be included in the bid document or request for quote. If you have any questions, do not communicate with anyone else. Just email the buyer. If they don't get back to you, you can email me. All of our contacts, by the way, are on the website too, so you can get email addresses for everyone in my staff. Formal solicitations are due at the city clerk's office by close of business on Wednesday, and then the following morning we open them at a public bid opening meeting at 8:30 in the council office on the second floor at City Hall, 175 East 2nd. Purchasing bids are generally evaluated based on the criteria in the ordinance, but you have to pay particular attention to the solicitation. You can imagine we're going to evaluate a bid for mowing quite differently than for banking services. They're completely different qualifications, requirements, you know, everything. There's different things that are important in those services. So you have to read the detail again in the document. The list of what's available generally to us to use to evaluate bids is nice, but that's not the critical thing. You want to know what that particular document and service or good requires to know how you're going to be evaluated. The length of time it takes to evaluate and award bids in purchasing is all over the map. It can be everything from just a few days on an RFQ to literally over a year. We replaced our complete financial system for the city, and the process to develop the requirements took almost a year. And then there was the process for bidding that and evaluating the proposals and getting to contract after that. So it could have been as much as 2 years for the whole process. That's a little bit of a, you know, wide range. The key is if you have any questions, stay in contact with your buyer and try to be patient. The more complicated it is, the more time we're going to take doing it typically. City's payment terms are net 30, and the biggest single thing I've seen that will keep your payment from typically being handled promptly by the city is our accounts payable department may not have seen the invoice. So we tell everyone to send your invoices to AP Invoices with a reference to the purchase order or contract and any contact. If you're working with a particular person at the city, you know, throw Kevin's name down there. He'll get you hooked up with the right person. Again, all the terms and conditions for a particular request that we send out are going to be in that document. And that's the main link that you need to go to. If you haven't ever done business with the City of Tulsa's purchasing, go to that link, Selling to the City, and it'll get you started.